Look, I'm a cow. And you're monster bait. Get some experience under your belt. We'll talk.
This is Diablo's Secret Cow Level, or rather the first of its many iterations. You may just see it as a silly little Easter egg, but the cow level has actually had a serious impact on gaming history that deserves to be recognized. You may have never heard of Condor, but you have definitely heard of its other name, Blizzard North. Headed by David Brevik and the Schaefer brothers, Condor mostly worked on game ports in the early 90s before making their own game. The small studio was bought out by Blizzard and turned into a subsidiary just 9 months before their original game hit the market on December 31st, 1996. And that game was called Diablo. Given its fairly experimental mix of roguelike and traditional RPG elements, Diablo was only expected to be moderately successful, but it ended up being the 4th best-selling PC game of 1997. A massive fan base formed around the game and instantly made the young Blizzard North a prominent fixture in the gaming landscape at the time. It was clear at the time that Diablo was doing something different, something that would have major implications for the future of the gaming industry. But we're not here to talk about Diablo's real-time online isometric approach to randomized dungeon crawling that would go on to define an entire genre, or how it helped to make Blizzard a massive company that owns and creates some of the biggest and most profitable games in the world. We're here to talk about cows.
Moo!
Surprisingly, cows actually have a lot to do with the success of both Diablo and Blizzard, but we'll get to that in a minute. The first whispers of cows and their secrets began with the emerging Diablo fanbase in the 90s, when computers looked like this. The internet has always been weird, but the pre-2000s internet was especially strange. The collective skepticism and disillusionment we would come to feel in our modern age hadn't quite caught up to us yet, which is perhaps why the rumor of the Secret Cow Level first took hold of Diablo players. In now deleted forum threads and message boards, Diablo fans started to hear about a hidden level. Screenshots surfaced, and those who claimed to have visited this mysterious level gave other players instructions on how to get there themselves. It was simple enough. Travel to Tristram, head over to the cows, click on a specific cow a certain number of times, and then head into the portal to the Secret Cow Level. The exact cow and the number of times it had to be clicked on varied from post to post, largely because, spoiler alert, there isn't actually a Secret Cow Level in Diablo. Yes, I know, even in the 90s, the internet was full of trolls who only wanted to stir the pot. In this case, they were editing screenshots with unused game assets to make it look like they had stumbled upon a totally new level that still meshed with the existing art style. And because the rumor wasn't totally unbelievable, it stuck around. But why was that such a big deal? Rumors and fake Easter eggs in games are incredibly common. What makes this any different? Well, the answer is Blizzard North. The newly acquired studio was still full of indie energy, so they often frequented the forums just to see what players were saying about their game. This meant that they were completely aware of the Secret Cow Level hoax, and they thought it was hilarious. While not directly created by Blizzard North, they did oversee the development of Diablo's expansion, Hellfire. As such, a reference to the Secret Cow Level was included. In this case, it was simply an NPC dressed in a cow costume that moos at you. But it was still a deliberate nod to fans. It was a way to acknowledge and poke fun at the constant posts insisting that the level actually existed. But this addition only fanned the flames, and the rumor persisted. In fact, it was so pervasive that the larger Blizzard studio addressed it in their next game, 1998's StarCraft. By using the "there is no cow level" cheat code, players could skip an entire level in the game. At this point, the cow level had taken on a legendary status. It became a sort of secret code word used to identify other nerds who liked video games. Since the devs were also in on the joke, it improved their relationship with players and strengthened the community as a whole. Remember that this was before the days of widely used social media, so a company being so pointed with references to fans and fan culture was pretty exciting, especially because it was Blizzard, a company that had put out some of the highest-selling and industry-defining titles of the 90s. There was a giddiness to the fandom at the time because they were being recognized, and it translated to a sort of reverence and loyalty to Blizzard as a company. And at this point, the cow level didn't even exist yet. It would take until the year 2000 when Blizzard North released Diablo II for the legend to become reality. Developed once again by Blizzard North, Diablo II became the fastest-selling PC game of the year 2000, took home plenty of awards and was just generally great. But what really made it stand out was the cows.
Moo!
Finally, after years of jokes and fake screenshots, Blizzard North made the Secret Cow Level rumor into a real thing. After beating the game, victorious players could perform a set of actions that would spawn a portal to Moo Moo Farm. Upon entering, they were greeted by herds of hell bovine. They swarmed players and mooed ominously.
Moo!
But they were pretty easy to defeat, which made the area perfect for XP farming. Pun intended. But the devs weren't satisfied with this level of commitment to the joke. Oh no, they also included the Cow King, a unique enemy that had a chance to drop armor set pieces and a ton of stamina potions, because they're white, like milk. Get it? In later patches, killing the king would actually render the players unable to visit the Secret Cow level on that difficulty setting again. So if you wanted to visit the cows more than once, you'd have to either keep the king alive or complete the game on a harder difficulty setting. If it wasn't obvious to the players already, the inclusion of the cow level proved that the developers at Blizzard North had a sense of humor. But it also felt as though they truly cared about their fans. Adding in an entirely new level to the game purely for the fun of it proved that Blizzard North would go the extra mile to show their appreciation to their fans. Once again, that community bond grew stronger, and Blizzard North was largely to thank for the positive view of the overall Blizzard brand. The company embraced this, or capitalized off of it depending on your view. They included references to the cow level in World of Warcraft, StarCraft 2, and basically every game they've made since in order to maintain those community ties. But in 2005, the people who first created those ties were cut from the company. Blizzard North was dissolved, and there's still very little information on why. As far as we know, the company that owned Blizzard at the time wasn't impressed with Blizzard North's work on the upcoming Diablo III. What aspect of development was worth firing a majority of the studio's employees over? We may never know. But while Blizzard North was left out in the cold, the Blizzard brand got to keep their beloved cow level meme. And they definitely took advantage of that. 2012's Diablo III had its own variation of the Secret Cow level called Whimsyshire. But Whimsyshire is nothing like the iconic Moo Moo Farm in Diablo II or the online hoax that started it all. The place is full of unicorns and teddy bears, and it's meant to invoke a kind of over-the-top children's storybook feel. This deviation from the original joke is intentional, but whether it's good is up to each individual player. Game designer Jay Wilson wanted to be smarter with their version of a cow level. Specifically, Wilson wanted to be smarter about things like not shutting off access to the level by killing the boss. He wanted it to remain open for exploration. But part of the original Secret Cow level's mystique was how fleeting your adventure in it could be. Much like the original forum posts, it was an experience best had in short bursts. Enough to laugh, enjoy, and reap the rewards. But Whimsyshire was a different beast entirely. One that didn't quite capture the magic that Blizzard North had created in the early community. It was a sleeker, shinier experience, not unlike the rest of D3, and that doesn't make Whimsyshire or Diablo III bad, but it is undeniably not like the games that came before it. Blizzard North's influence is very obviously missing, and the lack of a proper cow level was the only thing fans had to point to in order to prove it. Blizzard seemed to know this as well because 3 years after the game's release, they hosted a cow level event. Players could enter a portal to get to a level called Not the Cow Level, in which they could slay the Cow Queen and the ghost of the Cow King. The event was so popular that it actually stuck around and became a permanent fixture of the game. And then, in 2017, the Darkening of Tristram event launched on D3's anniversary. Players could return to Tristram from D1, run a new dungeon, and get the chance to find a secret pet that takes the form of, you guessed it, a cow. The event goes on every year and draws players back into the decade-old game, so Blizzard is still banking hard off the general nostalgia for these first 2 Diablo games and the joke that was spawned from them. And with each new reference, the legend grows. Games that have absolutely nothing to do with Blizzard or Diablo are including their own cow-level Easter eggs. For developers, these references are a way to pay tribute to what Diablo has done for the industry and participate in one of the gaming culture's biggest in-jokes. For players, it's a way to bond over the shared love of video games, form communities around those games, and keep them in the public consciousness long after their initial release. But the people who were responsible for creating the Diablo series and fostering the community that came up with the joke in the first place can no longer benefit from their creation. Blizzard North was closed down. But luckily, their spirit lives on amongst the cows. And that is the weird legacy of Diablo's Secret Cow Level. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to Nerdstalgic Gaming, like the video, and let us know down below. Do you think Diablo 4 is going to have a proper Secret Cow Level?